Thanks very much. You spoke about the right to assembly, the right to protest. Does that include the right to set up a checkpoint? As a typical citizen, can I set up a checkpoint in the middle of a road?
To stop other members of the public and question them? No.
And demand ID from them?
No.
No. Okay. Does that include arson?
No. Criminal damage by fire is a crime.
Does it include blocking a premises that is in lawful use and preventing people using that premises?
There'd be a proportionate response in respect of that, but we have to respect the rights of those individuals who have proper occupation of that and live there.
Because in the last few days, we've seen all of these things and more around the country. In Buncrana, there are reports of community organisations coming together to have essentially vigilante patrols. In Dromahare, there was checkpoints set up, cars were being stopped, people were being interrogated, demanding of ID. We saw that down in Inch as well, where protesters boarded a bus, demanded ID, took names, took details. None of this has received a policing response. Last night in Cool in County Westmeath, again, there were checkpoints being set up by citizens to demand information, to try and block people accessing buildings that were in perfectly lawful use. And you see, this is what frustrates me, because you talk in your opening statement about how spontaneous this was, and I cannot agree with that in any way at all, because anybody who has been watching what has been happening in social media and growing knew from the moment the news broke of that awful tragedy that this would be, the riot would be the inevitable consequence. And we have a distinct pattern of increasingly violent and threatening protest. In 2002, we had protests outside of here where a TD was assaulted. Was there any follow-up? Was there any arrests? Was there anything done in relation to a TD being assaulted outside here in September 2002?
2002?
2022, excuse me, 2022, yes. I wasn't even here.
Do you mean the 20th of September this year?
No, last September, on the first day of the drawback, ATD was assaulted outside.
I'm not sure. I'm not sure.
No. Last year, a TD was assaulted as well. Yes. Well, and because nothing was done, it grew into more significant protests outside. Nothing appears to be done, and these protests are growing. We had a whole summer of librarians. Being harassed, intimidated, being threatened, and seemingly no response. Are these things legitimate protest?
Well, if I might answer some of the questions, then they are not legitimate protest. I'm not aware of the incident in September 2022, but I'm sure I can report back if we can find a particular incident. There's a full investigation in respect of the events of the 20th of September this year. A full investigation has concluded into the various protests that were conducted in Cork around the libraries. That's been submitted now to the DPP, and we await then the DPP's recommendations in respect of that. And as I said, the 50 individuals have been identified and reported to the DPP, and we're in various places in terms of them before the courts or shortly to be before the courts. In respect of the incidents that you recounted last night, they are under investigation, but my last understanding I had in respect of the Dromahare allegation was we were unable actually to find a basis for that in terms of a witness who said that they were stopped. And I have to say as well, beyond this, we find that some of these incidents, again, are almost will-o'-the-wisp in terms of the reporting. But I do acknowledge the incidents that have been reported to us. There's been criminal damage, obviously, to premises that were set aside for those seeking accommodation for international protection. And there's been investigations in respect of that to determine those who conducted that damage. And secondly, then, anywhere where there's been where the law has been broken and complaints have been received, then those matters have been investigated.
I think if you're looking for evidence, many of it is posted in the social media groups, on the Telegram groups. These people are proud of what they have done, and they're happy to show it off, to show others. So the evidence is out there.
Well, might I also say there's a huge amount of these groups circulating, and we have dedicated members who do look for digital intelligence, but we're not on every network. And if individual members of the public come across material online which they feel is offensive, then they should report that to Gardaí, because often these images are fleeting and then disappear.
But surely if you are taking an intelligence-led approach to prevention, and surely prevention is the first port of call in a graduated response, you should be on these networks. Or, as was said earlier, the SDU should be on these networks.
Well, yes, and that's why we need to be informed further of what these networks are. It's just, I think it's impossible to suggest that we will know of every network that these individuals will be on. And indeed, then when they do move on to these networks, some of them are very difficult to penetrate. And that's why I say if members of the public, inadvertently or otherwise, come across material which they feel breaks the law, or they wish to report to us, then they should do so immediately.
Just to follow up from the Chair's question about the SDU and the numbers there, if you could put some more context in it, how many would you like to have in it? How many are there? How many do you feel should be there? How many have applied to get in and are waiting for sign-off? Who should be doing that sign-off? Are there any roadblocks? Those kind of a bit more fine-grained detail to the numbers around the SDU. But as the Chair says, can be in writing afterwards.